Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Nothing like some breaking news to start off the week. It was reported just about 30 minutes ago from Elliot Friedman that Barry Trotz will announce later today that he is stepping down as the Nashville Predators general manager. And so we bring in one of our Preds people, our hockey guys. Adam Vingan has joined us to start off the show. Adam, I know this probably isn't the morning that you expected, but thanks for joining us for a couple of minutes here.
Of course. Happy to be here.
Well, Adam, I know we were pretty surprised here getting ready for the show to learn the news that Barry Trotz is going to be stepping down. What was your reaction? I'm sure this couldn't have been expected.
Yeah, it's a throw out the rundown kind of day on DVD. I had everything all planned. We had some good conversations ready to be had. And we'll have to have them later in the week. But yes, shocking news as first reported by Elliot Friedman. And we are hoping, by the way, that Elliot Friedman, who joins DVD every Thursday, will be able to join us today to help us break this all down. We are in the process of connecting with Elliot to see if that is a possibility. He is a very busy man. But when it comes to this news, yeah, I'm surprised. The Predators have announced that they are holding a news conference at noon featuring Trotz, Sean Henry, and Bill Haslam. So we'll get some answers there. One thing we do know about Barry Trotz, he is incredibly candid. So I imagine he will tell us precisely what's going on. But I'm still trying to formulate my thoughts on this just because we don't have all the facts. So, for example, I heard Robbie and Rexrow talking about this right before they went off the air. God forbid Barry Trotz has some sort of health issue. That may be playing into this. We don't know that. So it's I don't want to speculate. There could be a ton of reasons why the Predators and Trotz have made this decision. But I will tell you what my initial reaction is. So it had been reported by Friedman that Trotz is expected to stay on as GM until a successor is found. And if I were the Predators, I would take this opportunity to go outside the family. I think one major criticism of this organization from its own fans is they are too obsessed with the quote unquote Predator way. And although Barry Trotz, for example, he was out of the organization for a decade, he went to Washington, won the Stanley Cup, he went to the New York Islanders. So he went out and then came back. But of course, it's Barry Trotz, and he is deeply associated with the Nashville Predators organization. The front office, I think, needs a refresh. If you look at the people in the front office, the scouting department, the assistant GMs, they all have been with this organization for a very long time. I think it would be of critical importance to the Predators to look outside the family, as I said. Find a replacement who has few, if any, ties to this organization, because I do think the way this organization runs needs a refresh. One thing we were going to talk about on DVD today before all of this happened is, the Predators are still in the mix in the playoffs. They had a big comeback win on Saturday against the New York Islanders, but they're still, I think, 4 points out of the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. And this organization, in my opinion, and I've said this for many years, this organization will not get better until it allows itself to get worse. I think this organization needs to undergo the true definition of a rebuild in order for it to be successful and competitive again. And maybe this is the opportunity for the Predators to find someone who will really look into taking that true step back, not the half step back, not 1 foot in, 1 foot out, a true step back. So we'll get more answers today at noon. But yes, shocking news in Nashville.
Right. We don't know the reasoning. We don't know the next steps yet for the Predators. We will get more information during the press conference that is expected later today. Adam, you mentioned the rebuild and taking this step back. And I wonder if this changes the way Barry Trotz approaches this trade deadline. You look back at David Poyle's last trade deadline, and he was able to send off a lot of players and get a haul back for guys like Tanner Jeannot and others. Do you wonder if this maybe changes the way Barry Trotz views this trade deadline, knowing it is his last and he wants to set up this organization for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I do wonder what Trotz's role is going to be in that. I don't know how long it's going to take them to find a successor. I have to imagine it won't happen. I mean, I could be wrong, but I have to imagine it won't happen between now and March 6th. I mean, that would be, 5 weeks to find a GM in season? That may be difficult to pull off. So, it wouldn't shock me if Barry Trotz was in charge of the trade deadline. And if you are the GM in waiting. I'm sorry, Jake. There's an important call I have to take on the other line. I'm sorry. I do have to go. I apologize.
No worries.
But you can call me back in just a minute.
Sounds good. We will check back in with Adam in a minute. But Adam Vingan joining us right off the top of the show. He will, I'm sure, along with Willie Donick and Derek Mason, have plenty of thoughts later on after we hear more from Barry Trotz, hopefully this afternoon. But the news is a report from Elliot Friedman. Barry Trotz will be stepping down as Predators general manager. And Parker, as Adam said, this kind of threw out the whole plan we had for the show today. I spent a decent amount of time on the grid today. I was ready to come in here talking some Titans, some college basketball, but when breaking news happens, you got to pivot. And we have today Barry Trotz stepping down as Predators general manager. Shocking news. I think considering this is only year 3 of Barry Trotz as the general manager.
Yep.
And I know he's a coach, and I heard Robbie and Joe talking about this, and that is what he's done. That is what he's been good at. He won a cup as a coach, and I do wonder if maybe this is to get back to coaching. Being a GM may just not be for him, and he wanted the opportunity to come back to the Predators organization where he spent so much time. He was able to help this team get off the ground, but sometimes that job is just not for everybody out there. Sometimes players want to be coaches. They don't want to be GMs. Sometimes coaches are good coaches. They're not good GMs. And I do wonder if maybe he is getting up there in age, but I do wonder if maybe he does want to get back to coaching at some point. And if this is the move to do so, or maybe this is just a retirement and Barry Trotz decided that he was ready to move on. I don't know. And we're going to wait and we're going to get answers hopefully this afternoon, but shocking news this morning that Barry Trotz is stepping down as the Predators general manager.
And if that is the reason, we're not trying to speculate. We don't know. But if that is the reason that he wants to get back into coaching, sometimes you just have a passion and it just never leaves you. Like, for example, when I was done playing football and I graduated, I could not get away from the game. I wanted a job to which I could talk about football. I could not see myself doing anything else. So when you have a passion, that never leaves you, and ultimately you got to go chase that. But I don't know why Barry Trotz decided to step down. Jake, something that we were talking about before the show is this timing. Like, why now?
Right.
Why not wait until the end of the season? Why not even wait till during the Olympic break? Why now?
It is a
I
strange decision with 3 games in the next 4 days for this team heading into the Olympic break. I would have thought maybe it would make sense Friday or something like that, like right after you head into the Olympic break. Honestly, might make sense. They play his former team that he coached, that he won a cup with in the Capitals on Thursday. Maybe it brings it full circle. But here is the report verbatim from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet. According to multiple sources, Barry Trotz will announce Monday he is stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators, although he will remain on the job until a successor is found. After a rough start to the 2025-26 season, the Predators rallied to within 4 points of a playoff spot as of Sunday night. However, with just days remaining until the Olympic freeze and a month until the trade deadline, the team was also investigating all of its options. So there's going to be a lot more questions than answers until we actually hear from Barry Trotz. And as Adam said, Barry Trotz is about as candid as it gets. I think we are going to hear exactly why this decision was made, what the next steps are. But right now, that report from Elliot Friedman is all we have, that Barry Trotz will announce later on today that he is formally stepping down as the Predators general manager. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Breaking news on this Monday morning. We will continue to react. We will hopefully get Adam Vingan back on in a couple of minutes, and we will be able to talk with him a little bit more. Again, Barry will stay on as the new general manager until another is hired. But we will get more thoughts from Adam, and we'll continue to react to this on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 125 the game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, reacting to the breaking news this morning. Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet reporting that Barry Trotz will announce today that he is stepping down as the general manager of the Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. The Preds will hold a press conference with Bill Haslam, Barry Trotz, and Sean Henry coming up at noon. And we are now rejoined on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Adam Vingan. Adam, we were discussing the trade deadline and what the Predators could do. And I continue to go back to the timing of this is strange. And I know we'll find out more when Barry Trotz speaks today, but it is strange timing with the Olympic break coming up next week and the trade deadline just a few weeks later for this news that Barry Trotz will be stepping down as GM.
Yes, first of all, I would like to apologize to everybody for having to leave abruptly. I was waiting for an important personal call, but everything is squared away. So
great to hear.
Your point, Jake. The Predators have 3 games left before the Olympic break and 8 games left before the NHL trade deadline on March 6th. So although the deadline is still a little bit more than a month away, the Predators aren't going to be playing games for most of February because of the Olympic break. And I believe Wednesday is the start of the Olympic roster freeze. So from Wednesday, I believe, to February 22nd, teams cannot make trades. Similarly to what happens around Christmas when the holiday break and the holiday roster freeze. So the Predators, certainly whoever's GMing, Barry Trotz or his successor, can talk to other GMs about potential deals, but nothing can happen basically throughout the entire month of February when the league is on pause for the Olympics. But I do wonder if there might be a sort of butting of heads between ownership and Barry Trotz on the direction of the franchise. This franchise has never undergone what is considered the true definition of a rebuild. And maybe we'll find out today that Bill Haslam and Sean Henry want the Predators to do that. Perhaps Barry Trotz was hesitant. Maybe it's vice versa. Maybe Trotz wanted to do that. Maybe ownership didn't. And maybe they decided that the best path forward, is to go their separate ways. But, what I was saying before I had to leave so abruptly is you have to look at the Predators situation with clear eyes. Yes, the Predators are within striking distance of a playoff spot. And there are people listening because we see it on our text lines. We see it. We get it on our phone lines. Hey, 2017, the Predators were the 8th seed in the Western Conference. And look what happened.
Right.
That was a rarity. Okay. Since the wild card format came to be in 2014, only 2 wild card teams have made the Stanley Cup Finals: the 2017 Predators and the 2023 Florida Panthers. In the history of the wild card format, teams that qualify for the playoffs as wild card teams have an overall series record of 17-40. 17 series wins, 40 series losses, and 57 total series. That's a winning percentage of under 30%. You have to be clear-eyed about this. These Predators, what they did, that was a great game on Saturday. I was on pregame. Roman Josi, big goal at the end of the game. Yet another comeback win for the Predators. Kudos to them for battling back for a month and a half and making things interesting. But this team is of zero threat to any top team in the Western Conference. So I think that the Predators really should undergo that true rebuild. And here's an interesting one, Jake, because I was going to ask about this today. I was going to ask Barry Trotz about this again, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if Barry Trotz is going to join DVD tomorrow at 5 o'clock. I guess we'll find out. The Ryan O'Reilly thing. So Barry Trotz is treating Ryan O'Reilly as if he has trade protection in his contract. He does not have trade protection in his contract.
Yep.
Barry Trotz could trade Ryan O'Reilly to any team he wants. And although Trotz did say on our show last week that he is not taking a Ryan O'Reilly trade off the table, I don't think Barry Trotz should treat Ryan O'Reilly as if he has trade protection. What if the best offer the Predators get for Ryan O'Reilly comes from a team that Ryan O'Reilly doesn't want to go to. You know what I would say? Too bad. It's about the organization. It's not about you. So again, I'm sort of spilling my guts out here as I try to formulate my thoughts. I'll have more coherent thoughts at 3:00. But one thing I do wonder about is this. I do wonder if there was, and this is complete speculation, I'm not reporting anything. I wonder if there was a difference of opinion between Barry Trotz and ownership about the direction of the franchise. Did Barry Trotz say, hey, I know we're still in the playoff mix, but we're not going to be a threat in the playoffs. I think we should do a hard sell. And Bill Haslam and Sean Henry said, we are trying to make the playoffs. We want our fans engaged. We're not into that. I do wonder if maybe that played into this.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when we don't have a whole lot of information, so it is a lot of speculation right now. The AP is reporting, though, that the decision is not health-related. So that is something to point out there. I know a lot of people have been texting in and wanting to wonder if it was health-related. Adam, I heard Robbie and Joe talking about this earlier, talk of Barry Trotz has had so much success as a coach that maybe that's what he wants to go back and do. Do you see that for Barry Trotz at his age, trying to go back behind the bench after a few years as a GM?
I've heard that, and look, you can never discount it, but I feel like we've had Barry Trotz on the record saying he's not interested in coaching anymore. That part of his life is behind him. So that doesn't mean that he can't change his mind. A lot of us change our mind all the time, but my gut tells me that's not what this is about. I mean, if Barry Trotz became available as a coach, he would get a job within the next few days, because although he's been out of the coaching world for a few years now, he is still one of the best coaches in NHL history. So if he wanted a job, I bet there are teams that would fire their coaches to get a shot at Barry Trotz. But I feel like we've heard him on the record before saying that coaching was not what he wanted to do anymore. So my gut tells me that this isn't what that's about.
Yeah, I would guess that's probably not it. But again, with the little information we have, a lot of speculation of what the next move is for the Predators. I guess the thought that came to my mind too, Adam, is what does this mean for Andrew Brunette? Because Brunette was Trotz's guy. Trotz hired him. Could this signal maybe a complete rebuild, cleaning of house for the Predators at the end of this season?
Yeah, if I'm Andrew Brunette, I might be a little concerned because he has lasted a lot longer than a lot of people thought he would, considering how bad the team was last season and how poorly they started this season. And I have said this on our show that I have said at times that if Andrew Brunette's boss was anybody other than Barry Trotz, he would have been fired by now. And I truly believe that. I do think Brunette has done a good job getting these players to help turn around the season. But if Trotz isn't a GM anymore, if I were Brunette, I would be concerned.
Yes, lots of questions that need to be answered. And again, the Predators holding a press conference at noon. The report from Elliot Friedman is that Barry Trotz is stepping down as general manager. Adam, thanks for taking some time with us today. Everybody should know, 3:00, you will have much more information and can tune in with Adam, Willie, and D-Mace on DVD. Excited for that. Thanks for coming on, Adam.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Adam Vingan from DVD joining us, reacting to the news. Elliot Friedman reporting Barry Trotz will step down as general manager. Again, he will stay on until his replacement is found, but there will be a press conference coming up in just a couple of hours that will shed some more light on this situation. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will take your reaction on our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We will continue to react as well. The Predators got a huge win on Saturday, moving them back into the wild card mix with just a couple games left to go until the Olympic break. But the breaking news this morning is that Barry Trotz plans to step down as general manager. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday morning. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with us, with you today on this Monday morning. We've been thrown off this morning. Barry Trotz going to step down as the Predators general manager, as reported by Elliot Friedman. He will stay on until the new GM is hired. And a big thanks to Adam Vingan from DVD joining us to react to the news. And again, you can hear Adam at 3 o'clock. The news conference with owner Bill Haslam, CEO Sean Henry, and of course, Barry Trotz will be aired right at noon. So excited for that to learn more about this situation. I wanted to talk a little bit more about the timing of this. And we were confused at first by the timing. And Adam said that too, of, man, the trade deadline's in what, 4 or 5 weeks? Are you going to be able to find a new GM in that time? And at first I thought maybe not, but the Olympic break maybe is this unique opportunity for the Predators to go through this search where there aren't games being played and they can go find the successor to Barry Trotz during this 3 to 4 week period. I just find it hard to believe that they're going to let Barry Trotz run this trade deadline without any input from whoever is going to be the general manager in the future, right? Like that doesn't seem to be very forward thinking if you're going to have Barry Trotz step down, make massive decisions about your roster for the present and the future, and then hire someone else who just gets left with that situation. I think you would want whoever his successor to be in the building helping make those decisions. We mentioned the David Poile situation. When David Poile stepped down, Barry Trotz was already named as his successor, and they were able to kind of work through that situation at the trade deadline together. So I'm wondering if this is the timing that they wanted, because they do have this 3-week break for the Olympics where they're able to find that successor, go through the long-term plan, and then make those decisions at the trade deadline together. Parker, that's the only way I can kind of wrap my head around the timing of this decision.
Right, because until Adam kind of laid that out, the timing made zero sense. But I guess when viewed from that perspective, it makes a little bit more because they have 3 games until the Olympic break. Then you get, 3 weeks off for the Olympics. Right. So I guess that is time. I don't know how quickly you're able to run through a general manager search and pick out your guy. But I really think it's interesting how he said the organization needs to go outside the box here and not just go with what they know, because I feel like really in anything, when you're comfortable, you don't really grow. It's only when you're uncomfortable that you do. And that's what the organization needs.
Right. And I get what Adam's saying. There needs to be a balance, right? Of, you do want to put a competitive brand of hockey on the ice. That is what Nashville fans have known. That's what Nashville fans come out to support, is they want to go see their team competing to get into the playoffs, because that's what the Predators, by and large, have done since they were an expansion team, is they have been in the mix for playoff spots. Now, they're not making the playoffs every year, but they are a competitive team that is rarely in the cellar of the NHL. And I wonder if that brand has stuck with David Poile and Barry Trotz, who have been the only GMs here. And it's like, hey, we don't want to go into a full-on rebuild mode because we don't know what our fans will do if we go into a full-on rebuild mode, right? Because it's never been done before, where there's 3 or 4 years where this team is not very good and you're hoping for lottery balls more than you are for wins. I do agree with Adam, though, that at some point, you do have to take steps backwards to take steps forwards. You need to find that elite centerman at some point. And Barry Trotz has said it as much. I remember sitting over at the Fordyce Center in Bellevue right as Barry Trotz was being hired as the GM. And he did a sit down with George Plaster. And he basically said exactly what Adam said, is in this game, you can't just sit in the middle forever, because you're never going to be bad enough to get that elite player who can change your franchise.
Kind of like the Steelers, right? We're seeing that same thing play out with the
right.
Steelers.
And I think the Steelers made a Mike McCarthy hire of, we don't want to see our team bottom out because we don't know what our fan base will do if we bottom out, because it just doesn't happen in Pittsburgh. Here in Nashville, this team hasn't been bad. And I think Barry Trotz, when he took the job, kind of expected the team to get bad. And then they had the point streak back in 2024, and they went to the playoffs, and I think Barry Trotz said, oh, okay, we've got the young guys, we've got the core. Let's go make a push for it because we feel like this team is just a couple of pieces away. And obviously that didn't work out. Last year was not good. This year has been better, but you're still on the outside looking in when it comes to a playoff spot. And I do wonder if Barry Trotz's initial plan was to take that step backwards, to be a team that was at the bottom of the league for a couple of years and hopefully get that franchise-changing player. And when the team outperformed expectations with some of these young players, he decided to change his view, and then it ended up backfiring. And so I do agree with Adam that I think going outside, finding new perspective on this franchise, and somebody who may want to go into a rebuild, maybe that's the right move for this team. I don't know, though. Like, we don't, again, a lot of this is speculation. We're trying to get into more information if there is any. But again, we're probably going to have to wait until Barry Trotz speaks at noon. And as Adam said, we'll keep repeating it. If you want the truth, you're going to get it from Barry Trotz.
He's not going to mince words, and he's not going to sugarcoat anything. He'll tell you exactly what he feels like. But I agree, because there was a lot of pressure on at least one of the professional sports teams to be good, because we know that we were not going to get that with the Titans.
There's a void.
But in our lifetime, in my lifetime, we've never really seen the Predators. Yeah, they've been good. They've always been, in playoff contention, or at least in the hunt. And then, that one year in 2017 made the run to the Stanley Cup final. So we've never really known what it's like for the Predators to be that bottom dweller that you were talking about. So I wonder if that was the plan, but I know there was a lot of pressure on Brunette, but I wonder if that pressure got to Barry Trotz at all.
Yeah,
I have more questions than I have answers.
Right, so that's what we're sitting here. The news came down right around 8:30, and we've been trying to play catch up here. And again, Adam Vingan adding some perspective, but pretty much all we know is Elliot Friedman's report that the expectation is Barry Trotz is going to step down today. News conference is scheduled for noon with Bill Haslam, Sean Henry, and Barry Trotz. And the AP reporting that it is not a health-related decision, which is good to hear. And we will get more answers coming up at noon when Barry Trotz speaks. We know you have reaction. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Michigan in Murfreesboro has called in. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking the call. This is not going to be a super objective call because I'm a season ticket holder and I've been going since 2001. This is one heck of a way to interrupt my Monday morning as I'm at home working. I have a couple things that I want to say that I think Adam kind of got to a little bit. I really hope this is outside the family. And I don't mean that as a slight to anybody with the last name Poyle or anybody who's been in the organization for a long time. But as you indicated, we've been a play the middle franchise for about as long as you can be, and it's gotten us where it's gotten us. I love the team. I'm very excited to go to the game tonight and to go to the game Wednesday night. I love supporting the city and supporting the franchise, but I think we know what this team is and what it isn't. It's a high floor, low ceiling team, and they had a very low floor last year after spending a lot of money. So I truly hope that they do take an honest look at going outside of, the Poyle family regime, which has had a longer reign than King Augustus of Rome, for Christ's sakes. I mean, he's been here since the place was erected. It's time for some new ideas. I do feel really bad for Bruno. I like Bruno a lot. I think this probably is, you can play the Hangman song for him, regardless of who comes in, whether it's somebody who's established like a Kevin Adams that was just deposed in Buffalo and built a team that we just saw with our own two eyes. Yep. I mean, I know they replaced him, but that team that was on the ice is all his doing. Consta Hellenius, Rasmus Dahlin, everybody that we saw. So if it leads to that and it leads to Bruno being gone, I feel awful for Bruno, who will have that done to him twice now in places that are going to see brighter days in the relative future. But I think this is a good thing in the short term and in the long term. I want to see Joachim Kamel. I want to see Ryan Ufko. I want to see Tanner Molendijk. I want to, in the next year or two, see Brady Martin and Igor Cern and Riker Lee and Cole O'Hara and all these promising young kids. And if that means that, there's going to be more away jerseys in the stands at games, so be it. But if it means we get Carl Taylor up from Milwaukee finally as well, that's also a good thing. So appreciate all the coverage. Can't wait to hear the press conference. Thanks for all you do.
Yeah, thanks for the call. I think there's a lot of good points in there. And with Andrew Brunette, we don't know anything about what his future looks like, but you can read the tea leaves a little bit of things have not gone well the last couple of years with a lot of talent. And as Adam said, I think Barry Trotz was sticking with his guy. You just don't know what a new person coming in is going to do. I really wish we had more answers for you because, again, we're sitting here kind of speculating on why this is happening, what the next steps are. But I think the big thing that we're seeing from a lot of people on the text line, the YouTube chat, calling in, is that the Preds probably do need a new voice. They need a new lens on this franchise. And that's nothing against the Poils or Barry Trotz because they've done a great job building this team into a team that is a consistent contender. It's hard to be as consistent as they've been for the most part over 25 plus years. This team has never been embarrassing, right? Like we look at the Titans the last couple of years and you're embarrassed to go out to the games because they're 3-14. They're uncompetitive. The Predators have really never been that, with the exception of maybe a season here or there where they've been towards the bottom of the league. The Predators have built a sustainable product, but they have not been able to build up into a championship team outside of the couple of years you make the run to the Stanley Cup Finals, you win the President's Trophy. But you do need to take a step back sometimes to become a Stanley Cup contender. And I wonder if that's the plan of, hey, we do have young talent. Just heard a bunch of the names from Michigan there. Tanner Molendyk, Igor Surin. I mean, he's in the KHL for a few more years, but promising young guy. Andrew Gibson down there in Milwaukee. Of course, Brady Martin, your 5th overall pick this year. Riker Lee, a first-round pick. Their names up and down your prospect list, your roster that you hope are going to be key contributors. You do need the one star, though, right? You need that top-line center that all of the great teams have, and you haven't been able to find that. Even in the years you've been great, yeah, you've had good players, but you haven't had that generational type guy. And you do have to take a step backwards to have the opportunity to pick that guy sometimes. Let's go back to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin in Hopkinsville is called in. Dustin, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Good morning. This team needed to rebuild since after that 2018 run, and they said, let us run it back. We got this. The Johanssons and Duchesnes and all that. And like I said, it's okay to be embarrassing for a couple of years if you're going to rebuild, and this team's never done it. And that's why I've kind of looked away. Like, some people don't want to rebuild, but, buddy, if you're not doing things to get better, sometimes you got to go to the bottom of the well to get to the top. And I think what happened here, because after I seen it wasn't a health issue, that just look at what all Trotz has done. He's done some weird stuff. He really built Bruno a tough team to win with at first. Yeah, Stamkos, but they're getting A's. Marchessault, all them, and they've been slow. Now they figured out a way to win with this team, and that's great and all. But I think a lot of behind closed doors meetings are going on, and they are just not on the same page. And I think Barry may have bit off more than he wanted to chew on, and he's like, dang, maybe I think it's a mutual thing here is what I think. He built that slow team, and now I feel like the dude's probably wanting to take it. He didn't fire Bruno. Something needed to happen in that losing streak this season. And I think it's all came to a head, and both parties are agreeing to part ways.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Dustin. We don't know the reasoning, and we'll find out from Barry Trotz and Bill Haslam and Sean Henry coming up at noon. But I think Barry Trotz had a plan when he took the rollover from David Poile. And I think that plan was to rebuild. But again, I'll tell you, I don't know if anybody else was out there listening, but George Plaster did like an hour-long sit-down with Barry Trotz right when he got the job. David Poile was still there, but Barry Trotz was being introduced. And I remember him saying the words, you need the elite centerman. Sometimes you have to take 2 steps back or a step backwards to take 2 steps forwards. I think that was his plan. But the team almost made the playoffs back in 2023 with all of the young players that they had. Then in 2024, you go on the long point streak, you make the playoffs, you show promise. And I think Barry Trotz thought he had an opportunity to go all in for a Stanley Cup run. And obviously it backfired. But I think he got out of his comfort zone with his initial plan, which was to rebuild. But the team overperformed his expectations and left him with an opportunity to try and go for it. And obviously it didn't work out. So we will see. Again, there's not a whole lot of reporting that we can do. Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet putting out there that Barry Trotz will announce Monday he is stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. In the AP reporting, it is not a health-related decision. So that's all we know, but we'll continue to react here. We'll get your reaction as well on our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, the news from Elliot Friedman. Barry Trotz going to announce today, that he is stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. Reacting to the reports this morning, Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet saying Barry Trotz will announce he is stepping down as the Predators GM today. He will stay in that role until his successor is hired. Lots of mixed reaction on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Caleb said, excuse me, not Caleb. 4828 says, everyone's got to understand rebuilding in hockey doesn't always go like the NFL. Look at Chicago, look at Anaheim, look at Calgary. All these teams that it's taking 5+ years for them to even get to be relevant again, and they're still at the bottom of the league. So I get that, but there's a lot of people out there as well saying this team has never really undergone a full-on rebuild, and at some point you do have to do that. I lean towards the rebuild side, and I think we'll get maybe not a complete answer to this in the press conference today, but I think we'll get some sort of outlook at what the future plan for this team is from ownership, from Barry Trotz. The question that Adam posed, and I've seen it on the text line too, of was there a disagreement about what the long-term outlook for this team would be? I don't know. And was it Barry Trotz wanted to tear it down and ownership didn't want to, or vice versa? That's the question, right? That's what we're all wondering with this news shocking us this morning that Barry Trotz is going to step down. I can't imagine that ownership is going to want to have this team be bad for a few years. So maybe that was it. Maybe Barry Trotz did want to do a complete teardown. I don't know. And that's why we're waiting for noon. Let's see. Other texts. Chip from Mount Juliet says, especially after the fan backlash with the Weber trade, but that one actually worked out. It seems like Poyle has been gun shy ever since and remained steadfast to keep the team's stars intact. I think that's a good point. I think you are always wary of trading away guys who the fans like, because you just never know how it's going to turn out. Yeah, you could look back 5 years down the road and say, man, we got out on him at the right time. We traded away a player who was past his prime, and we got future pieces who have helped build us back into a playoff team. But it is risky to trade the proven commodity, the asset that you have right now, for more prospects and picks, which can be like lottery tickets. But I look at it and see that the Preds, they have pieces for the future. I don't think a rebuild would take that long, right? Like, I get what 4828 is saying about that sometimes you go into a rebuild and never know when you're going to come out of it, but you see the pieces that are already there and the draft capital that the Predators have been able to build up by doing these semi teardowns over the past few years, trading away their expiring contracts, trading away some of the veteran players. So they do have a farm system that is capable of building this roster up quickly. Honestly, I think for the Predators, it is just finding that missing piece of who is going to be the centerpiece of this next iteration of the Predators. Brady Martin, I really like. And I think Brady Martin is going to be a very good player in the NHL. But is he that number one guy who's going to get you to a Stanley Cup? I don't think so. I don't think he was viewed that way when he was drafted. I think you need to put yourself in a position where you have the lottery odds on your side for a couple of years, see if you can luck into a top pick and get somebody who can be that top line center for your next 15 years. Yeah, the lottery makes it difficult because you can't just tank and know, all right, we're going to get our guy in 1 year. But I think the Preds do have the foundation of the future roster coming up through their farm system, whether that's prospects like Igor Sorin, who's in the KHL, or guys who are already in Milwaukee. It's just a matter of finding those finishing pieces and finding that centerpiece of the next Predators who can get them back into the playoffs. And to find that guy, you do have to take a step back.
Yeah, and I again, this is another one of my questions that I had, but I wonder how much of this is a philosophical difference between what Trotz believe and what, Haslam and Sean Henry, what they believe if, he actually wanted to go through the rebuild, but, the others in the front office did not want to do that. So I believe you're right that they have the younger pieces where this rebuild, if that's what ultimately is going to happen, it may not take as long as you might initially think. And I'm thinking, that I thought that text from the texter was really good about rebuilds in the NHL can take a little bit longer than they do in football. And I'm just thinking about the Blackhawks. They drafted Connor Bedard, this
Right.
supposed generational talent, but the Blackhawks are still not, where they want to be, where their organization's history should have them being at this point. And that just maybe because it takes a longer time.
I look at the Preds though, and you see the young talent coming up. There's so many good players that I think you're excited about. And it really, I don't think the Blackhawks were a Connor Bedard away from being a contender. The Predators might be in a couple of years. They might be that one great generational type talent away. But the texter is correct, though. Hockey may be one of the toughest sports to rebuild in because in the NFL, there's no lottery. So if you're bad for a year, if you're really, really bad, you can guarantee yourself a spot at the top of the draft and you can get that quarterback or playmaker that you're looking for. In basketball, yeah, there's a lottery, but you're really one great player in basketball away from completely changing the outlook of your franchise, right? In hockey, it's a little bit of both, right? There's a lottery, so you can't really tank, but one player, yeah, it helps, but you do need more around it. And that's what we talk about with Chicago and Connor Bedard. Yes, they got the guy who's supposed to be the future star, and I think he's going to be, but they didn't have the infrastructure around him. It makes this a tough situation, and I'm excited to hear what the Predators have to say. Again, Barry Trotz, the report is that he is going to step down later today. Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet putting that out this morning. Barry Trotz will announce today he's stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will continue to take your thoughts on this. As more information becomes available, we will get that to you as well. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Again, the breaking news this morning. Elliot Friedman reporting Barry Trotz will announce today he is stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. He is going to have a press conference along with Bill Haslam and Sean Henry coming up at noon. So make sure you keep it tuned right here on 102.5 The Game for all of your coverage throughout the day. We're going to get to a couple more tweets and texts here from all of you out there. Lots of reaction on the Barry Trotz news. Hugh tweeted at me, and I think here's a good point, Parker, that I think Preds fans in general need to come to terms with. Hugh says, the Preds have staved off rebuilding for 20 years of existence. Whether we admit it or not, this is a rebuild. Whether you want to admit it or not, ownership wants to say it's one thing, but the results are what they are. And I think that's fair. You can continue to try and stave off a rebuild as long as you can, but at some point, you're going to, it's how sports work. Like, unless you're one of these ridiculous dynasties that are able to somehow sustain being great for 10 years at a time, there's ebbs and flows with it. You know, some years you're better than others, and maybe you get lucky with the draft pick in one year, you don't the next year. Sports are like that. And if you try and go against the grain and say, no, we're going to force it, we think we can be great, let's go all in, sometimes it blows up in your face. And I think we can make a perfect comparison to the Titans of a couple years ago, after they fire Mike Vrabel. I think you could look at the roster and say, yeah, this team's probably in need of a rebuild. You were getting past the era of Derrick Henry and Kevin Byard and Taylor Lewan and Ryan Tannehill and so on and so forth, of that group that got you into that Super Bowl window. But instead of embracing that and rebuilding and saying, all right, well, that window's gone, let's try and build a new one, they said, no, we're going to try and extend it. So we're going to trade for L'Jarius Sneed, and we're going to sign Calvin Ridley, and we're going to try and force this thing and see if we can stay competitive in the AFC. And it blew up in their face. They've won 6 games in 2 years since then. I think at some point you do have to kind of go with the grain of the ebbs and flows of a roster, no matter what the sport is. Of, yes, you would love to be one of those teams that can be in the mix every single year. Outside of baseball, it's really tough. Baseball, like the Dodgers can reload every year, the Yankees can reload every year because there's no salary cap and because other teams don't want to spend. But that's a different conversation. In the sports with salary caps and with draft lotteries, it's really hard to sustain success for more than, I would say, 5 years at a time. Like, if you get a core and you can keep them together, a 5-year window to go win a championship is probably about right. Outside of that 5-year window, I think you have to be cognizant of what you're doing to try and open the next one. And the Predators are out of their window. I think they've tried to sustain it as long as possible. I think a rebuild has to be coming. And it's funny, the mixed reactions we've gotten. There are lots of people saying, I'm not signing up for a rebuild. Like, you need to be able to go all in and keep this team competitive. There are other people saying, tear it all down, trade everybody. It's always somewhere in between, right? But I think the decision from Barry Trotz here, I think, plays into a reset for the Predators. It's a natural point where I think the Predators can reset. Now, you're not going to trade everybody. Like, Roman Yossi's sticking around. Philip Forsberg's sticking around. You have UC Saros on a long-term deal. I don't think Steven Stamkos is going anywhere. Like, I think there are some of these contracts that you're never going to be able to get off of, and those are your fan favorites. I don't see them going anywhere. But as Adam Vingan said, I think Ryan O'Reilly needs to be traded. And I think if the timing is what we were kind of speculating it might be, where they are going to try and go find a new GM in season over this Olympic break, I think that might be the plan, is to do what you did with Trotz and Poyle, working that last trade deadline together back in 2023, and then having Trotz and his successor working on this trade deadline as well. I think that could end up being the plan. But again, this is all speculation right now. We're going to hear from Barry Trotz. We're going to hear from Bill Haslam, as well as Sean Henry coming up at noon, going to get some light shed on this situation. Again, shocking news this morning as Elliot Friedman from Sportsnet reporting that Barry Trotz will announce today he is stepping down as general manager of the Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. Again, the news is it's not health related. I know that has been speculated, but not health related. We will find out more on Barry Trotz when he steps to the podium coming up in a little under 2 hours. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go back to our phone lines. Edward is called in. Edward, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hey, guys, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
I'm not a real big Nashville Predators fan, but any local teams I pull for. When we talk rebuild, this is what I envision. We're going to be losing for the next few years. That's not what fans want to hear. Winning is the cure-all for everything. We need to win now. You get out there and you find the players that you can acquire. You pay them the big money. You get them in here. Winning is the cure-all for everything. But every time I hear the words rebuild, that's just setting up for the fans to say, hey, guys, we're going to not be very good for the next few years, so just hang in there with us. That just doesn't work in today's society. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
And I get that, and I think that's why we're getting the mixed reactions of these fans don't want to sign up for a rebuild. It's not like the Panthers, right? The Panthers have won back-to-back Stanley Cups. It's not like the Panthers, after winning those cups, saying, all right, we're going to rebuild. I think fans could sign up for that because it's like, all right, well, we got to see 2 Stanley Cup championships.
One back-to-back. So.
Right. For the Predators, you've had this window with a lot of great players over the last 10 years, and you've stayed competitive for the most part, but you didn't win that championship. And I don't think fans want to sign up for, man, are we really going to go into the cellar of the NHL for a few years when we haven't really gotten to the pinnacle? And I know that's not what you want to hear, but the goal in every professional sport, every sport, is to win a championship. And would you rather sign up for continuing to be borderline, all right, we're the wild card some years, other years we miss the playoffs, but we're going to be in the mix every single year? Do you want that for the next 10 years? Or maybe 5 years of being bad, followed by 5 years of being true Stanley Cup contenders? I know that's very basic, but it's not as black and white as that. But I think you do have to look at it and say, just like Hugh, who tweeted at us, said, the Predators have staved off rebuilding, a full rebuild, for the last 20 years. At some point, it has to happen. And we're going to get more information about this with Barry Trotz speaking, I would guess. But the trade deadline is coming up quickly. It is a month away. And that's going to be a big inflection point for the Predators if they're going to add more to their draft capital, add more to their prospect pool, add more to their current roster that can help build this team back into being a true contender. Back to our text line. James says, I think Barry did a great job accruing draft capital while still being in the playoff hunt. If we had one more good center, we wouldn't be having this discussion. Some of the picks that Barry made are already hitting. I agree. I think you can look at what Barry Trotz has done, and there are positives, right? Like, Igor Surin was a mid to late round. I want to say he went 22nd 2 years ago in the draft. But young Russian center who he's going to be in the KHL for a little bit, but he is skyrocketing up prospect lists. Brady Martin made the roster as an 18-year-old, and I think there's a lot of hope for him. You've got Tanner Molendijk coming through the ranks. I think there's a lot to like about what Barry Trotz has done to build up the future of this team, but I think Preds fans have to be frustrated as well that heading into last season, you were sold on this team being a true Stanley Cup contender, right? Like,
yeah,
you go sign 3 of the top 5 free agents in 1 year, and I think everybody's looking at it and saying, this is it. We're going to be back. We're going to the Western Conference Finals. We are going to go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Maybe we finally win the Cup. I think that was the expectation. And it's disappointing to get to this point where now Barry Trotz is stepping down and you might have to rebuild, but you can't let that stop you from doing what the best thing for this team is to hopefully win a championship.
I've never known a team or organization that has never had to go through a rebuild at some point or another. And if you're the Predators, you haven't done that in 20 years. If you, let's say go hire a general manager who doesn't want to rebuild, aren't you just kind of prolonging mediocrity and, never getting past that hump of actually contending for a championship? I feel like at some point it has to happen. And I get it. Like, I don't like to lose in anything. As somebody who doesn't even like to lose Uno or any card game like that, I get it. I don't want to lose, but at the same time, if you have to take a couple steps backward to eventually walk towards that goal of competing for a championship, then you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. The mixed reaction on this, I think, is expected. This is shocking news that Barry Trotz is stepping down, and I think it puts a lot into question of what the overall plan is for the Predators moving forward. Mark says, huge Preds fan, good or bad, I'm watching. To me, mediocrity is worse than a rebuild. Even if we squeak into the playoffs, we will get bounced quick. And I think that's a good point too, is we're looking at this Preds season and it's been so fun to watch them get back into the playoff hunt after the slow start to show the fight and the grit to get back into this playoff conversation. It's been awesome. But is this team a Stanley Cup contender, even if they get in? I know hockey is one of those sports where you get into the dance and you've got a shot at it. But I just don't see this team having the juice right now to make a run and go to the Stanley Cup final. And yes, playoff hockey is a lot of fun. I want to watch playoff hockey here in Nashville, but I think you do have to take that step backwards if you're ever going to get back to being a true Stanley Cup contender. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got more reaction on the phone and text line. We will get to it coming up next. Also, later this hour, I'm going to give away a 4-pack of tickets to the Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball game at Nashville's Municipal Auditorium on Wednesday at 5:30. So later this hour, make sure you stay tuned for it. Athletes Unlimited coming back for year 2. 40 players in the league, including a ton of WNBA players, former college stars, Alicia Clark, a Mount Juliet native who played for the Las Vegas Aces. You've got Tahina Paupau, who is just on South Carolina's national championship winning team a couple of years ago. Anissa Morrow plays for the Connecticut Sun. She was at LSU. So lots of great players coming out. Again, I will give away this 4-pack of tickets to Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball. That is for Wednesday. That's coming up later on this hour, so make sure you stay tuned. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday. The breaking news this morning. Elliot Friedman reporting Barry Trotz going to step down as Predators general manager today. He will remain on the job until the next GM is found. And again, Trotz along with Bill Haslam and Sean Henry will speak to the media coming up at noon. Keep it right here on 1025 The Game for all of your coverage throughout the day. We talked a lot about the long-term plans for the Predators and whether this means a rebuild is imminent. We also have to look at what the Predators are going to do in terms of general manager just in general. Like what are they going to be looking for? And Adam Vingan, who called in with us earlier, and again, make sure to listen DVD, 3 o'clock. Him and Willie, I'm sure, will have a ton of thoughts on the whole situation, especially after we hear from Barry Trotz. But Adam said he thinks his initial thought is they need to go outside of the family. And I agree with him that means no disrespect to the Poyle family by any means. And I think Brian Poyle and the Poyle family in general should always have something to do with the Predators and have a role in what the Predators do. But I think Adam is right in that the Preds have had the Predator way for 25 years. And they've been able to sustain success like we've talked about, but it's all been done the same way. And you wonder if at some point getting an outsider's perspective in here is what this team needs. And I would look for that. I don't know how fast this search is going to go. And I think that's my main question for the leadership at the press conference today would be, what is the timeline for finding this next GM? Are you letting Barry Trotz just finish out the season and do anything that he wants to, of course, with input from ownership? But is this Barry Trotz's decision to make at the trade deadline and into the offseason, and then they'll get somebody in here for the draft and free agency and all that? Or are they trying to fast track this like we speculated and maybe get somebody in here during the Olympic break who can tag team this with Barry Trotz? Trotz knows the roster, knows what he has. You bring in that outsider's perspective, and they can make the decisions for the long-term future of this team at the trade deadline. I don't know, but that has to be top of mind heading into this is what is the timeline for finding this next GM, and how involved will Barry Trotz be in the early decision-making processes of whoever his successor is?
Yeah, and getting a general manager in here within that time span, again, I have no idea how doable that is. If you were to tell me before, I don't know. 4 weeks just does not seem like enough time, but I could be wrong. I have no idea.
I don't know, and I guess that's, for me, I don't know if this has been done a ton of trying to find a new general manager in season, but because of the Olympic break, I think it becomes more possible, right?
It certainly gives you a stopgap, or it gives you a window of time to be able to do it.
Right. There's,
certainly,
as Adam said, no trades can be made during this, and there are no games being played. So the candidates out there who are in the front offices for other teams are going to have a little bit of time to come in and interview if they want to. So I don't know. I think that is my, outside of the, overall reasoning for the decision and Barry Trotz, what he hopes to do next, how involved he wants to be. The biggest question at the top of my mind is, what's the timeline here? And how quickly do they want a new GM in here? Because again, the trade deadline's coming up and there are big decisions that have to be made. I think a Ryan O'Reilly trade would be good for the future of this franchise. His value is probably never going to get higher than it is right now. He's played really well this season. He's made his line mates better around him. And he has another year on his contract. So he's not just a rental. You get him for 2 Stanley Cup runs if you trade for him. That is valuable. And talking with Max Hers last week, he said that the Predators should be asking for multiple first-round picks, a prospect, a current NHL young player that they feel they can build around. I don't know if you're going to get the King's ransom that you might want, but I do think if you can get anything close to it, it makes sense because his value is never going to be higher. And as I've said all morning, I think this is kind of just a natural reset for the Predators. Barry Trotz stepping down. We don't know. Maybe they make a change at head coach. That probably wouldn't happen until after the season. But I think there is a natural reset, and you want to get the most value that you can for some of these older players who aren't going to be part of the solution for you when you get good again. Love Ryan O'Reilly, but when this team is a Stanley Cup contender again, he's not going to be part of this team. The guys you could get in a trade for him and the guys you could pick with the selections you get for him, those guys probably would be part of that team. So I think you probably do have to make that move.
Yeah. And this is just, again, I've never seen an organization or a franchise that has never had to rebuild. I've never seen it. So at some point, it feels like it has to happen for the Predators. It's just natural part of life. Players get older, different parts start moving, but it seems like they have the younger guys at least, or the start of the foundation of the young guys. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But again, more questions than I have answers. Love to see what Barry Trotz has to say at noon.
Right. We've got about 90 minutes left in the show. Right after us, Barry Trotz going to speak to the media at noon. So make sure you keep it right here for all the reaction throughout the day. Mark on the text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, does make a good point. He says, surely they aren't going into this blind. Do you think they have the next GM in mind, possibly already lined up? And maybe that's true. Maybe they've been doing work behind the scenes. This probably wasn't something that Barry Trotz just woke up today and decided to call Bill Haslam and say, yeah, I'm going to step down today. I'm sure that the wheels have been in motion for a little bit here. So I guess the Predators have a plan. It's just a matter of how fast they can enact it with, again, this still being in season. The Olympic break does give them a little bit of that stopgap, like you were saying, Parker, to get some interviews done and see if they can bring someone in. But a lot of these answers aren't going to be able to come until we hear directly from Barry Trotz and Bill Haslam coming up at noon. Let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dr. Locke has called in. Thanks for calling. What you got for us this morning?
What's up, fellas? I finally got my power back. That's a good thing.
Great news. Great news.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, did you guys happen to watch the stadium game last night?
I did not watch a ton of it. I did see clips. I saw there was a goalie fight and a shootout, which is all you can ask for in a stadium series.
Yes. There was the first time I've ever seen it in my life. A goalie fight. The Boston goalie ends up getting kicked off with the guy that's in front of him, just goes off, tackles him, starts dropping haymakers on him. The other goalie skates to center ice, kind of yelling. The Boston guy gets up, looks at it. Oh, you want this? Drops the blockers, drops the gloves, drops the sticks, says, come on, drop it. He drops it. They go at it, center ice, for, a good 30, 60 seconds. And that's just kind of funny watching goalies throw down. But it was ended in a shootout. And then it was kind of interesting. PK Subban interviewed Tim McGraw, who performed at the first or second period, asking Tim McGraw what got him into it. He kind of goes in. PK Subban said, so wild to talk to you because every time I scored a goal watching you perform. And so it's kind of and then they started talking a little bit of Nashville Predators. So that was kind of interesting. But, that game, if you didn't get a chance to go back, that was probably one of the best hockey games I've watched. I just happen to have a vested interest in it. But on the other side, on the other note is, our Preds, it's fine. I'll go to a game if I get tickets. But right now, you guys have done an amazing job of supporting Vanderbilt athletics. And a couple years ago, I remember calling in saying, all you guys do is talk about a team from Knoxville. Vandy. What about Vandy athletics? And quote unquote, we'll talk about it when there's something there to talk about. Well, man, is there something to talk about? The Kentucky game, the Ole Miss game, the guys, the girls, all of those. If you get into Memorial and you go to Memorial Gym, you are treated to some amazing basketball. And you guys do an absolute great job of supporting that. And it's really refreshing to watch 102.5 that's broadcasted out of Nashville actually talk about the college team that's here in Nashville. And I'm serious. And literally, it's a big credit to you guys. Your show does it more than any other show that you guys have. You guys really stand behind that the Vandy Athletics, and it shows.
Well, we do have
Keep
one of the
doing it.
voices of Vanderbilt
Yeah.
athletics in the room, so that does help.
Hey, but you guys got something worth talking about there, and that's honestly, if somebody gave me tickets to the Georgia Vandy or Ottawa, or a Senators Predators game, there's no question I'd take the tickets to the Georgia game.
Well, thanks for the call, Dr. Locke. And yes, we love supporting Vanderbilt athletics, and fun weekend in Memorial. Vandy men beating Ole Miss on Saturday. Vandy women coming back to beat Florida yesterday in front of over 9,000 people in Memorial. So that was a lot of fun. But again, we're talking about the big news of the day. Barry Trotz is stepping down as the Nashville Predators general manager, as reported by Elliot Friedman this morning. And again, continuing to see some thoughts of whether it's health related. It has been reported it is not health related. So that's pretty much the extent of what we know. Barry Trotz is going to step down. There will be a news conference at noon. He's going to stay on until his successor is found. The decision is not health related. We will share any more updates that we would get about this before the press conference scheduled for noon again. And you can keep it tuned right here. We'll get you all of the updates here on 102.5 The Game. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Reaction Monday, and it's been a big one. Barry Trotz going to step down as Predators general manager, as reported by Elliot Friedman this morning. He will remain on the job until the new GM is found. Adam Vingan, who joined us earlier today, just put it out there that Elliot Friedman will join DVD today at 3:20. So look forward to that. A chance to talk with Elliot, who broke the story this morning. Andrew Brunette is also speaking to media right now over at practice, and I guess he said that he found out at 8:30 a.m. that Trotz was stepping down as well. So found out right around the same time everybody did. Again, a noon press conference is scheduled. It'll be Barry Trotz, Bill Haslam, and Sean Henry. We will get a lot more answers then. Make sure you keep it tuned right here on 1025 The Game for all of your updates. We are going to pivot here a little bit. We will continue to give you updates if there is any new information that comes out, but we are going to pivot. It is Super Bowl week, so a lot to talk about there. Seahawks and Patriots coming up on Sunday from Santa Clara. They are arriving down there, so I'm looking forward to this Super Bowl, Parker. I think more than any in the last, I would say, at least 5 years. It's different, right? Even though it's the Patriots again, and like I've said it before, it stinks that to get different, we had to go back to being the same with the Patriots being in it. But it feels different than what we've had the last few years. It's been the Chiefs and the 49ers or the Eagles for what? 5 of the last 6 years or something like that.
Yep.
I guess the Bucks were in there too, Chiefs and Bucks. But the only different Super Bowl we've had was Bengals and Rams. And I think just like everybody else around here, I was still in mourning at that point and didn't really care about the Super Bowl after the way the Titans lost in the playoffs that year. So I'm excited for this one. I think the Seahawks are the better team, and Darnold's more experienced, even though maybe it's not playoff experience, right? Like he's played in maybe a handful more playoff games than Drake May. Actually, no, they played the same,
no, it's
right?
the same. Yeah.
Right?
Because the Seahawks had the bye this year, so Drake May got 3. Sam
Right.
Darnold had 1 last year, plus 2 this
Plus
year.
2 this year. Yeah, so it's the same. So the playoff experience is the same. But, I mean, I guess I look at Sam Darnold, more mature. Drake May is only 23 years old, walking into a Super Bowl in year 2. So I kind of lean that way. I just think the Seahawks roster is better. But I do think we're going to get a good game. Like Mike Vrabel, as we know around here, is going to have his team ready to play. I think he's going to have a good game plan. I do think the Seahawks talent wins out in the end, but I do think this is going to be a fun one. And I think there's a lot to look forward to on Sunday with the matchups that we have. I mean, look at on the outside, Jackson Smith and Jigba versus Christian Gonzalez. I think that is going to be an elite wide receiver cornerback matchup. I think we're going to see a lot of battles in the trenches. Both these teams have good offensive lines, good defensive lines. That's probably, I mean, it's not novel to say this because most football games are won in the trenches. I think that's probably where this game's going to be won. We can talk about Darnold and May as much as we want, and I do think that they're both going to have to make some plays down the stretch. I think you're going to have to rely on them at some point to make some plays, but I do think maybe the running game for one of these teams could be what decides it one way or the other. Do we see more of Travion Henderson for the Patriots? Does Kenneth Walker continue to play the way that he has? I mean, he was unbelievable in that NFC Championship game. So I'm excited for this one, Parker. I don't know if you have any other thoughts on this. I'm leaning Seahawks, but I think it's going to be a close game.
No, I'm with you. The Seahawks are favored at -4.5, and that line has not really changed since the line came out. And I have to agree. I think I'm picking the Seahawks too, and here's why. So the New England Patriots have averaged 18 points per game through their 3 playoff games, which is the least amount of points scored for a team to make the Super Bowl ever. And if you look at the Seahawks and what they've been able to do, just absolutely wrecking teams, I think they're averaging around 34, 37 points a game. So they're clicking on all cylinders. And I think the question too about Sam Darnold, would we see regular season Sam Darnold, or would we see, postseason lights are shining bright, that version of Sam Darnold? And I think Sam Darnold has really answered the bell. He didn't have to do a lot versus the 49ers because of, the oblique injury, plus the Niners only scored 7 points, so or 6 points rather. So that helped, take a lot of the pressure off of Sam Darnold. But then when he faced Matthew Stafford and the LA Rams at the conference championship, we saw those two teams kind of go blow for blow, and Sam Darnold performed just a little bit better. So I'm interested to see how he performs now that they don't really have a whole lot of weaknesses.
Yeah, that's where I stand on it too. I just think that is a pretty complete team. They've got weapons, they've got a great defense, they've got the offensive line, they've got Darnold, who's kind of been the conductor out there. And you're right. I think there was a lot of doubt around Sam Darnold heading into these playoffs. Even as the 1 seed, it was a wait and see type of thing. Can Sam Darnold win the games in the biggest moments to get his team to a Super Bowl? And he came through. So I'm going to go Seahawks. I put down 31-23. That is my early prediction for the Super Bowl, subject to change throughout the week. But I'm going to go 31-23 Seattle. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Again, we are keeping an eye on the big news of the day from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet. Barry Trotz has announced, or will announce later today, that he is stepping down as general manager of the Predators. He will remain in that job until the next GM is found. It is not a health-related decision. And again, a press conference coming up in just over an hour at noon with Barry Trotz, Bill Haslam, and Sean Henry. So we're keeping an eye on that, but we are talking Super Bowl here. And on the other side, I want to talk about a Nashville Super Bowl, because I think we are just a couple years away from having the big game in our own town here in Music City. 615-737-1025. Let's give away those Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball tickets that we talked about earlier. Be caller number 4 at 615-737-1025, and you can win a 4-pack of tickets to see Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball at Municipal Auditorium this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. WNBA stars, former college stars, so much fun over there at Municipal Auditorium. Again, be caller number 4 at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a 4-pack of tickets to see Athletes Unlimited on Wednesday at 5:30. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, wrapping up hour number 2 on this Monday. Again, the breaking news this morning that we are watching throughout the day. Barry Trotz will announce today he is stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators, according to Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet. He will remain on the job until his successor is found. And again, a press conference scheduled for noon, so make sure you keep it right here. We'll have all your updates on that throughout the day. Shocking news today that Barry Trotz is stepping down. We'll have more thoughts on that coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. But we were talking Super Bowl, Parker, and I couldn't help think of it yesterday as I was putting together the show of, it's Super Bowl week. Radio Row is getting set up out there in Santa Clara, and all the spectacle that comes with the big game. And I think we're 4 years away from having that right here in Nashville. I really do. The next 2 Super Bowls are set, and it seems likely that the Raiders are going to get Super Bowl 63, that Vegas is going to get it again at Allegiant Stadium in 2029. I would be pretty surprised if Nashville isn't next up. Typically, they like to reward you when you build that new stadium with a Super Bowl within the first few years of it. Obviously, 2027, 28 are spoken for. Las Vegas, the heavy favorite for 29. I think 2030, we're going to get a Super Bowl in Nashville, which is just absolutely crazy to say. But with the way the city has grown and you have the stadium to support it, I think it is going to be great considering the large events that Nashville has hosted the last few years. And you'll get a few seasons to get that stadium up and running. And 2030, I really think that's going to be it. I would be pretty surprised if it's not Nashville in 2030.
No, I agree with you. And Roger Goodell came out and said too that, Nashville would host one eventually. So I could definitely see it being within the next 4 years, because you think about the events that have come through Nashville, whether it be the NFL draft or even the SEC men's basketball tournament, the FCS national championship game. It doesn't really matter what the event is. We are crazed sports fans here in Nashville. So if you get a Super Bowl here, I promise it would have a good turnout. Plus, with how the city has exploded. I mean, I can remember being a kid and it would take me 15 minutes to get to downtown Nashville from Mount Juliet. Now it takes me an hour. With all the people that are moving here, it would be a huge success. It would be a slam dunk.
No, I agree. I think, I mean, Roger Goodell, when they did, what was it called? The steel topping out ceremony. Was that the big thing that they did like a month and a half ago where they put the last steel on top and Roger Goodell showed up
steel beam,
and they talked about the Super Bowl. And I mean, it's going to happen at some point. Maybe it's not 2030, maybe it's later, but the stars are aligning for it to be that way. Buffalo is getting a new stadium, but they're not going to host a Super Bowl in Buffalo when that is not a dome, right? Like, sorry, no one wants to go play in February in Buffalo in an open air stadium. So yes, they reward new stadiums with the Super Bowl. That's not going to happen. Nashville is next in line. I will say, Parker, I was a little bit surprised, and I might have said this before. I was a little bit surprised that Nashville didn't get the draft next year, because the stadium is projected to be done like a year from now, right? February of 2027. I thought that the draft would be a perfect opportunity to be like all right, the draft comes back, grand opening of the stadium, everybody gets to check it out, and it could be this prelude to the Super Bowl being announced. Maybe they announce it that week that the Titans are getting the Super Bowl, that Nashville's getting the Super Bowl. But I think it's Washington is getting the draft next year. Maybe it's 2028. But I think the Titans and Nashville as a whole have proven they can handle the huge crowds that the draft, the Super Bowl would bring. The infrastructure is there, and now you have the stadium. 4 years. That's all it's going to take. I mean, think back to the Super Bowl 4 years ago. That was, I guess that was Bengals and
4
Rams.
years. Yeah. In LA.
That was Bengals and Rams in LA. That doesn't seem that long ago, right? Like it's going to get here before we know it. And I can't wait. I think the city is ready for it. And, 4 years from now, I think even more so. And I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. I really do. And maybe the Titans are competitive at that point, and there's a thought that, hey, who knows? Maybe the first Super Bowl in Nashville, the Titans could be playing in their home stadium. But I mean, I think we might be getting ahead of ourselves.
We can dream though. We can dream.
Lenny asked, do you think that the ice storm shutdown of the city might detour them from having a Super Bowl here? I don't think so. Like, I don't think that's going to play a role.
I don't really think that messes with the timeline.
Well, I guess it would just be like, oh, can the city handle it if there was winter weather or something like that? I don't think so. And again, do want to say that we're thinking of everybody out there who is still being affected by the ice storm. It obviously it's been lingering on way too long with the power outages.
Some people are supposed to get power back
Next
the
week.
Day of the Super Bowl.
Right, like Sunday, which
Right,
is crazy.
2 weeks without power.
So I do get the question there from Lenny, but the way I'm looking at it, I think the city is going to learn from this, that this can never happen again. And I would hope that that wouldn't be a factor in there. But I do understand the question from Lenny. I think 2030. They're going to announce shortly the 2029 Super Bowl, and I forget where are the next two. Because it's in Santa Clara this year. Then it is, it's Vegas next year too. That can't
I'm
be
looking
right.
it up.
Because I did see that Super Bowl 63. It's LA. SoFi Stadium is getting it back next year.
Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, LA, and then 28 is Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta.
Right. So it does kind of make sense that it wouldn't be Nashville in 2029 because Atlanta, Nashville, pretty close together. Send it back out west for a year, and then I think 2030. I really do. And it's crazy to think, but we are 4 years away from a Super Bowl possibly being in Nashville. But we do have one coming up in Santa Clara on Sunday. Seahawks and Patriots. We'll have plenty more coverage on that throughout the week. Getting ready for Super Bowl 60 out there. Will Mike Vrabel bring home a Super Bowl in year one with the Patriots, or will the Seahawks, led by Sam Darnold, get it done? 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Much more to come on the show. We've got one more hour with you. We are going to continue talking about the reports that Barry Trotz is stepping down as the Preds GM. And we did get some questions. Chip from Mount Juliet asking, will the news conference be live on 1025 at noon? Yes, it will. Chase and Big Joe are going to air that live at the top of their show. So make sure you keep it tuned right here on 1025 The Game. You get to hear that live and all the reaction from Chase and Big Joe, as well as DVD coming up at 3. And again, Adam Vinga did put out there Elliot Friedman, who broke the story, going to join DVD at 3:20. So we will be locked and loaded for the entire rest of the day on all the news around Barry Trotz. We'll talk more about that in the 11 o'clock hour. Also some news and notes around the Titans, college basketball, much more. All of that coming up in the final hour of the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday morning. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Monday. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We are continuing to track the story of the day. Elliot Friedman reporting this morning that Barry Trotz will announce he is stepping down as the GM of the Predators. A news conference is scheduled for noon. So 1 hour from now, you will be able to hear it right here on 102.5 The Game. And, of course, reaction throughout the day from all of our shows. We will continue to find updates on that. We'll get to your thoughts as well throughout this final hour. But, Parker, we decided to pivot here for a little bit, and we'll continue to survey social media and see if any new information comes out. But I didn't want to get through today's show without talking some college basketball, Parker. And I know you're thrilled about that back there.
I am. It's been a while since we've truly dove into this.
Well, and I think this is the week that I think people's focus can fully start to turn towards college basketball, right? College football is now in the past. The national championship is a few weeks ago. You're now on to Super Bowl week, but there was no NFL this weekend. No one cares about the Pro Bowl, which is it Tuesday? Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow night, which I will watch 0 minutes of.
I don't plan on watching it, but there's a chance I end up watching it. So, yes, the Super Bowl is going to draw the headlines this week, but this past weekend, I think people fully were able to turn their attention towards college basketball. And what a weekend it was. I mean, lots of great games. Michigan State. The Wolverines look like they might be up there in a class with Arizona. I think you could put UConn and Duke in there as well. Those seem to be your 4-1 seeds as it stands right now. But a couple of really fun games throughout the weekend. BYU was down big against Kansas, almost came all the way back to win that game. College basketball is going to be fun this year. We can talk about the tier at the top of those 1 seeds, and I think those are the 4 best teams in the country. Arizona, of course, is still undefeated. Michigan, UConn, and Duke all have just the 1 loss. But it does feel like there is a deeper stable of contenders this year, and a feeling of anybody can beat anybody on any given night.
Yeah, no, I think it was Jimmy Dykes who said yesterday on the Florida-Bama broadcast that he believes there are 13 teams that can legitimately win a national championship this year. And I think it's great for the sport. I think the parity is awesome. I was watching Nebraska-Illinois yesterday, and Illinois has won 11 in a row. And they beat a very good Nebraska team at home after losing to Nebraska in Champaign a couple months ago. I really think Illinois is a national championship contender. And what's been fantastic to watch is the amount of true freshman talent. Illinois has a kid by the name of Keaton Wagler who had 46 at Purdue a week ago and then dropped close to 30 last night. So it's really fun to watch this true freshman class. But college basketball, it's great that everybody can now turn their attention to that because we're a month away from March Madness.
I know.
6 weeks we have
a
brackets.
We have a bracket, 6 weeks from yesterday, right?
Yeah. So it's just kind of crazy how funky the sports calendar is because now that football, there's 1 game of football left. Basketball, this is the prime time for college basketball.
Right. And for me specifically, I'm always locked in on football and the NFL and college football throughout the season. And being part of a women's basketball program, it's like my focus is kind of there. And this weekend was the first time on Saturday. We didn't have a game. We didn't have to travel. So I got to sit down and watch a lot of college basketball. And you're right. The freshmen are awesome this year. And I watched Cam Boozer at Duke because he played Virginia Tech on Saturday. And that guy's going to be a star. I mean, he just does everything. And then you got the matchup between BYU and Kansas later on with A.J. Dibansa at BYU, and then Darren Peterson of Kansas, who Peterson was unstoppable in the first half. Is he just what is going on with him? Do you know more about this than I do? Because I saw that he's missed 9 games this year with leg cramping, and then he missed almost the entire second half against BYU.
Same thing. It was leg cramps. I saw Bill Self said it after the game, but it's kind of crazy because when he was on, it was so funny because at the start of the year, he missed so much time, but then he came back in the lineup, and Kansas was actually a little bit worse with him in the lineup because they were just so used to playing without him. And then they got to the point where, okay, things are really starting to come together, and Kansas looked really formidable. And now that he's out of the lineup, it allowed BYU to creep back into the game. So I have no idea. He's going to have to play tonight because they're on the road at Texas Tech, which is a tough place to play. But when Darren Peterson's healthy and when he's out there, how can you stop him?
I was so locked in on that game because those freshmen, it's like they're being talked about like this is the draft class. It was 2004, right? With LeBron and Bosch and Wade and like that whole class. That's what it's being talked about. Of these guys are guys who are going to be franchise players at the NBA level. So getting to watch two of them go at it, and I kind of went into it expecting Dibansa to be the better player. And watching that first half, Darren Peterson was unstoppable. It's just
the dunk made me fall out of my chair.
I mean, the leg cramps. I'd love to know more about this. Who was the Blue Jays baseball player who said he eats bananas because monkeys never cramp? It is one of the funniest interviews of all time.
I mean, he's not wrong. That mustard, pickle juice, those are all salt.
Said, I eat a banana every day because monkeys never cramp.
Yeah. It honestly makes me concerned for his future. Like, is this going to be a prolonging issue?
Right. Like, if you can't get through one season of college basketball where you're playing 30 games, what are you going to do when you're playing back-to-backs in the NBA? So that becomes a question for NBA draft time. But the freshmen were great. I do want to get into Vanderbilt and Tennessee a little bit here because those are our two local teams, and both of them look like surefire NCAA tournament teams. Let's start with Vanderbilt here. Huge bounce back wins against Mississippi State and Kentucky. And we talked about it last week. You get a 30-point win on the road at Mississippi State after losing 3 straight. Felt like that was big for their confidence. Then Kentucky comes to town, and that game was just never close. You win by 25. But they've had to deal with some of the uniqueness of the schedule with the winter storm, and a road game turns into a home game all of a sudden, and you're playing Ole Miss on Saturday night. And Ole Miss came in here and gave Vanderbilt everything they could handle. And that would have been a bad loss for Vanderbilt. I believe it would have been a quad 3 loss, which is just, I mean, that's something that could drop you a whole seed line when March rolls around. They were able to pull it off. And I think that it's good to see from Mark Byington's bunch that they've found a way to win in different ways, I guess you could say, is that they can go out and they can dominate and they can be up 30 and run away with it and not let you back in the game. But it is important sometimes to have those opportunities in close games where you have to execute down the stretch like they did on Saturday night, and they got a big win. Right now, Joe Lunardi has Vanderbilt on the 4 line, which I think if you told a Vanderbilt fan that at the beginning of the season, they would have been thrilled. Like, obviously, the way Vandy started the season, winning their first 17 games, you look at it and you say, oh, man, you would like to be a 2 seed or a 3 seed. But being a 4 seed with the inside track to a Sweet 16 appearance in year 2 under Mark Byington, I don't think anybody could turn their nose up at that.
No, that's very fair. And after the 3-game losing streak, you really started to wonder, like, is Vanderbilt going to be okay? But they've responded nicely. And I think it should give the team confidence that you can win in different ways. But I was just thinking about the SEC, and it's truly, I believe it's the most balanced conference in America right now because it doesn't really seem like there is that elite team like we saw last year where you had, Florida and Auburn and Bama and Tennessee all, were a top 2 seed or in the top 8 seeds in last year's March Madness tournament. Now, after the way Florida played last night against Alabama or yesterday afternoon, you can make the case that they are in that category of national championship contender if they continue to play like that. But I feel like it's really Florida and Vanderbilt at the top of the SEC right now.
Yeah, and they played a great one in Memorial Gym a couple of weeks ago. Vanderbilt has the week off here to prepare for a matchup with Oklahoma on Saturday afternoon. And I did see a report that maybe Frankie Collins could be back for that game. He has not played since late November. So it would be huge to get him back. Duke Miles has been hurt too. If Vandy can get healthy, you're right. This is a team that can compete at the top of the SEC. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. 7621 on the text line says it was Munenori Kawasaki who said that for Toronto. If you have not seen that interview, look it up. It is hilarious.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I'm going to look up the interview, though, at the break.
It's very funny, talking about Darren Peterson's cramping issues for Kansas. Been a fun season of college basketball. We'll talk a little Tennessee on the other side, and, of course, we will get back into the big news of the morning. Barry Trotz going to step down as Predators general manager, as reported by Elliot Friedman. He will stay in that position until the new GM is selected. It is not a health-related issue. Just continuing to repeat this for anybody joining us. That is what we know, and there will be a press conference coming up at the top of the hour where a lot more information will be shared. We'll get some answers on the big questions that we have. It will be aired right here on 102.5 The Game. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Monday morning. Next man up here on 102.5 The Game.
Cramp?
Yeah, just cramp.
So you told me what can you eat to help you make you feel better?
Bananas.
Yeah. Why bananas?
Monkeys never cramps. Monkey never cramp. Because a monkey every day bananas. 2,
So how many did you have today?
3, power 3.
Oh yeah. So you no more cramp for you.
I need 3 banana because monkey never cramps.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arigato.
That was what we referenced in the last segment. Munenori Kawasaki, the Toronto Blue Jays. This was a few years ago. Was asked how he never cramps. Bananas. Monkeys never cramp. How we got there, for anyone just joining us, is we were talking about Darren Peterson with Kansas, who has missed a lot of time with leg cramps this year. We were saying maybe just need some bananas because apparently
it works. I can
works.
attest. It does work.
And it's pickle juice is the other thing that
Pickle
works, right?
juice, mustard, really anything with sodium.
Okay.
Pretzels.
I don't think in my athletic career, which was short-lived in high school, I don't think I ever had to deal with a bad cramp or anything.
I didn't either, because if you drank a lot of Gatorade water, typically you didn't get them. But occasionally I'd get the old foot cramp. I played with a guy that would bring a bottle of mustard with him to every game and would just drink it on the sideline in between drives, And it worked because he got really bad cramps.
I got to say, the worst cramp I ever had was when Calvin Ridley dropped that pass against Denver. I've told this story on the air. It was the one where you could see Calvin Ward, Cam's dad, looking just distraught in the stands.
They should have panned to you.
I know. I flexed my calf too hard.
Yeah.
And it cramped up.
I heard the fiance was worried about you.
She was like, "What are you doing? Was it really that bad of a play?" I was like, "Yes, it was. It was that bad." 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Again, keeping you updated on the breaking news this morning. Barry Trotz set to announce he is stepping down as the general manager of the Nashville Predators. We will get you more information as it comes on that, but pretty much at this point, just waiting on the press conference scheduled for the top of the hour. Barry Trotz, Bill Haslam, and Sean Henry will be speaking to the media, and you can hear that live here on 1025 The Game. We're going to get back into that in the next segment, but did want to continue on college basketball here. We talked about Vanderbilt. Commodores currently projected as a 4 seed by Joe Lunardi of ESPN, which, again, I think expectations changed throughout the season. And the way they started, you thought maybe this was a team that could be a 2 seed somewhere in that top 10 range. But right now, as a 4 seed, the way they're playing, I feel like they're in a great spot under Mark Byington in year 2. For Tennessee, they're projected as a 6 seed. Big win against Auburn back on Saturday, with Stephen Pearl returning to his alma mater as the head coach of the Tigers. The Vols able to get the win, 77-69. They will host Ole Miss on Tuesday. And you look at the Vols schedule, like, there's a lot of winnable games coming up for Tennessee. Ole Miss at home. Kentucky on the road is going to be tough, but Kentucky's been beatable this year. They did get Arkansas and Coach Cal on Saturday. At Mississippi State, who we saw the Commodores went in there and thumped them pretty good a couple weeks ago, and then LSU at home. So Oklahoma even after that. So like all the way leading up to the Vanderbilt game, you could see Tennessee start to catch some fire. They've already won 3 in a row, and the next 5 games look to be pretty winnable for this team as well. Ole Miss tomorrow night. That is a 6:00 tip out there in Knoxville. Parker, your thoughts on this Tennessee team? Obviously not quite in the spot they've been the last couple of years where they're going to Elite Eights, but this is a team that could be finding its stride at the right moment as we get into February.
I was at the game on Saturday, so I got to witness another impressive performance from Nate Ament. To be honest, when I was watching this team, really in parts of December, but mostly early on in January, I was watching them thinking to myself, it looked like a collection of transfers with not a lot of chemistry. And I think that really showed in the Kentucky game primarily, but really in some of the other losses as well, whether that be the Arkansas game or the Florida game, a lot of those games. But now with this 3-game win streak that they're on with, getting road wins at Alabama and at Georgia, 2 pretty solid wins, it helps to build confidence. And I think with the emergence of Nate Ament, he's really starting to play like that prospect that everybody hyped him up to be. And I think that's helped the team out a lot. Felix Okpara didn't play in the game on Saturday, but Dwayne Brown, a true freshman, stepped up. Jalen Carey, oh my gosh, was unbelievable. So I think the team is starting to develop confidence, develop that chemistry, but certainly a lot of winnable games down the stretch.
Yeah, and you mentioned Nate Ament. We talk about all the great freshmen in college basketball, and he might be overshadowed by some of the other names we've talked about, Peterson, Dybansa, Boozer, but he really is starting to come into his own. I think we're seeing him take the next step and start to see the game slow down for him a little bit out there, which has been cool to see. So both teams in the state looking like they'll be NCAA tournament teams, and we've still got two Vanderbilt and Tennessee matchups coming up over the next month or so. The first one is Saturday, February 21st at Memorial Gym, and then the teams will end their season in Knoxville on March 7th. So those should be some fun matchups, maybe just because Jalen Carey and the extracurriculars and drama that comes with that. Tennessee playing Ole Miss on Tuesday. And Parker, I do want to say, I don't think the stuff with Ole Miss and the weather is getting as much coverage as it should. Of that campus is shut down for another week.
Till Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes. And so the men's team had to flip their home game with Vanderbilt. So Vandy hosted Ole Miss. They'll now go to Oxford in March. So they changed that plan. And then, of course, they're on the road in Knoxville tomorrow. The women's team, Vandy had to play them in Birmingham on Friday. So that's where I was last week. They're playing tonight in Birmingham again against Auburn, and then staying there because they play Alabama in Tuscaloosa coming up on Thursday. So Ole Miss, I got to give credit to those basketball teams for continuing to play hard despite basically, I mean, they were living without power. Their dorms didn't have power. They tried to go to hotels. They had to move out into Birmingham to play these games. Like, credit to them for finding a solution, because obviously things are bad in Oxford, and thinking of everybody out there as well as the people still affected in Middle Tennessee. It is just crazy what the ice storm has done to parts of the Southeast, and Ole Miss and Oxford took the brunt of it.
Yeah, no, they're and prayers to them. I know there are people still here without power. It's just been a crazy week. And then we were talking about this as we were coming in. It's already been so hectic, and everyone's routine has been thrown off. And then this Barry Trotz news gets dropped in your lap, and you had already planned out the entire grid, and then we just have to change it all to start the show. It's been wild.
It was funny because inside baseball here, most of the time I will plan the show what I think we're going to talk about the night before or the afternoon before. And there are times where I have to change things. Like, I had a segment in there for today about, are the Raiders and Cardinals ever going to find head coaches? And then, of course, they did yesterday. So that went away. But it is rare when your entire plan for a show gets thrown out the window. And that's what happened on the drive in today when I heard Robbie say the words, Barry Trotz is stepping down as Preds GM. And that has been the focus of the show today. We're going to get back into that coming up next, because there are some new details emerging from Elliot Friedman. He has put out there a couple of updates to his story. Again, the news is Barry Trotz set to announce that he is stepping down as the general manager of the Nashville Predators. Here is what Elliot Friedman has added to his story. He says, most importantly, Trotz is healthy. This is a retirement. He is not interested in coaching. The team has hired CAA to run their search process. So that is the new information we have from Elliot Friedman. It's healthy. This is a retirement. He is not interested in coaching. So some of the speculation, everybody's surprised. Everybody's shocked when this news came out, and you immediately go to why. Why is he doing this? Two of the main thoughts were, is it a health-related issue? Does he want to get back into coaching? Elliot Friedman says neither of those are the case, and we will hear from Barry Trotz as well as ownership and Preds CEO Sean Henry coming up at the top of the hour. You can listen in to that press conference right here on 102.5 The Game. We will talk more about Barry Trotz and the shocking decision coming up next. get you ready for that press conference where we will hopefully learn more about the decision and the long-term plan moving forward for the Predators as they embark to try and find their next general manager. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, back into the breaking news that Barry Trotz is stepping down as the Preds GM after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Couple more segments on this Monday. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour. And again, they will air the press conference with Barry Trotz, Bill Haslam, and Sean Henry that is coming up at noon, as Barry Trotz is expected to step down as the general manager of the Nashville Predators. And we are reacting to that again. all we really have to go off of is Elliot Friedman's story here. He was the one to break it from Sportsnet this morning, putting out there, according to multiple sources, Barry Trotz will announce Monday, today, he is stepping down as general manager of the Nashville Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. The team will hold a media conference at noon to paint the full picture, but more details are emerging. Most importantly, Trotz is healthy. This is a retirement. He is not interested in coaching. So that answers some of our questions, of course, about why this is happening, but we really won't know until Barry Trotz steps up and speaks for himself at the top of the hour. Andrew Brunette did speak to the media, and I listened to a little bit of it. He said that he was surprised by the news. He found out at around 8:30 this morning, but he will let Barry Trotz tell his own story. So again, no real new details that have emerged yet, but make sure to keep it right here at noon. You will hear Barry Trotz speak to the media, expected to step down as the Preds general manager. But again, he will stay on until his replacement is found. It is funny. I've seen a lot of texts, Parker, today, and we haven't really gotten to this topic yet because I think it's kind of irrelevant, but a lot of people are mentioning Nick Saban in this. They're like, oh, Nick Saban comes in and makes changes. I highly doubt that Nick Saban had anything to do with this decision.
I have zero insider information on this, but I can guarantee he didn't do anything.
Right. Like Nick Saban wanted to be an owner of a hockey team, a part owner. That doesn't mean he's making decisions. Somebody did suggest Nick Saban as the next GM. Talk about getting an outside perspective on your hockey team. Getting a football guy to come in and be your GM. I would love to see that. Just completely joking, because obviously it would never happen. Love to see that. Nick Saban, from greatest college football head coach of all time to NHL GM in just a couple of years.
Imagine what kind of storylines that would get. The
people writing his biopic would have to completely start from scratch because they need to add a third act of him being the GM of the Nashville Predators. The Nick Saban stuff, we got like 5 texts about it today. I don't think that had anything to do with the decision, of course. But Barry Trotz is planning to step down. And I think as we've gotten further from this, it's been about 3 hours since the news initially broke that he's going to step down. I think they have an idea of who they want as their next GM, right? Like, the timing of it is such that if you didn't have somebody who was going to be in place by the trade deadline, I think it would lead to a lot of questions of, why are we letting Barry Trotz make these big time decisions for our franchise at the deadline when he's not going to be here as soon as they find his replacement? So I think they have an idea of who might be the next GM. Maybe not a name, but maybe a select few names that they want to bring in and interview during the Olympic break and then can make a decision. But I think this is going to be similar to the David Poile, Barry Trotz transition of power, where they work together on a couple of the big decisions down the stretch this season, and then Barry Trotz will cede and give way to whoever his successor is. I just don't think you can let Barry Trotz say, all right, I'm stepping down, I'm retiring, but I'm also going to make the choices on who we're trading at the deadline. Like, I think they have to have some sort of ballpark idea of who they want to bring in as the next GM.
Yeah, I don't know if you could do that either. I don't really know another option for Barry Trotz. I'm glad that he's staying in place until they find his replacement, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see how they're going to handle this, because I don't know if the front office was necessarily caught off guard. I know Andrew Burnett said that he found out at 8:30 a.m., which is around the time the news broke.
Right.
So I'm sure that he was caught off guard as well. So I'm very excited to see what the plan is moving forward.
Nevada Josh says hockey doesn't have the same rules as football, right? Where they can just hire whoever they want right away. I believe so. Like, I think if the Preds if they had a name in mind and had already talked to them.
There's no Rooney Rule.
I don't think so. I think they could just go hire somebody right now. And I don't know. Like, again, this is why they're having the press conference. We're going to get a lot more answers at this point. We can only speculate on a lot of these things. I do wonder if maybe this decision has been made for a while here, but last week maybe wasn't the time with everything that was going around Middle Tennessee to make this kind of announcement? Like, does that maybe make a little sense, Parker, of, hey, maybe this has been in the works for a couple of weeks and they were planning on announcing it last week, but of course with the weather and hundreds of thousands out of power, probably wouldn't have made sense to announce it last Monday. So maybe that's why the timing is the way it is. But you are 32 days, if I'm doing my math correctly, away from the trade deadline, where
Yeah.
there are big decisions to be made for this team. Like, expiring contracts, fine. Like, if you want to trade away some of your expiring contracts, I know Max Hurst talked about Michael Bunting. Like, that's not a big time decision that could affect this franchise years down the road. But like, trading Ryan O'Reilly, I think, is the big question that everybody's asking is, does he get moved and how much do you get back if you trade Ryan O'Reilly? And as much as Barry Trotz is respected and revered around this organization and this city, if he's on his way out, I think you would like to have whoever's going to be leading the charge next be part of those big time decisions, right? Whoever you're hiring as the GM is going to come in with their plan and their way of doing things. Handing him these recent decisions that you're going to be making on your way out doesn't seem right. So I don't know. And that's, I think we're all kind of just reacting and dealing with this in real time because there was no buzz around this whatsoever. Right, Parker? Like, I didn't hear anybody talking about Barry Trotz possibly stepping down.
It completely caught me off guard. Never. I mean, we're the flagship of the Preds. I don't think anybody here had an inkling that this was going to happen.
Well, and it was funny because I was on my way in and I heard Robbie, interrupt Joe Rexrode. They were talking about Makai Lemon and whether the Titans could draft him. And I heard Robbie say, we've got some breaking news. And I heard him say the Predators. And I assume they made a trade, right? Like, that was first thing in my mind was the Preds have made some sort of trade. The last thing I expected was to hear that Barry Trotz was stepping down. So I think we're all just trying to take this in over the last few hours. And I think Preds fans will probably feel better once they get that clarity on the situation of why this is happening. And hopefully, I know they're not going to give away their entire plan of what they're going to do, right? Like, this isn't going to be Barry Trotz and Bill Haslam and Sean Henry sitting up there and saying, all right, well, this is why it happened, and we're going to do A, B, and C. Here are 3 guys that we have as nominees for the general manager job. Here's what they want to do. Like, you're not going to get all of that spelled out to you right now. But I do think it will be important to talk about what the long-term, just generalized path for this team is right now, because you're kind of caught in between. You do have that base in your farm system, like we've talked about, with these big name prospects that you hope are going to be star players for you in the future. But some of those guys are years away. And you also have aging veterans that you brought in or that you've had for a long time. Does Jonathan Marchessault get traded? Does Ryan O'Reilly get traded? You've got Brady Shea. You've got Steven Stamkos. UC Saros just started an 8-year extension. So you're kind of caught in between on, is this team building for the future or are they trying to win now? They're not going to tell you exactly their plan, but I would like an answer to that question of, like, where is this team going? Are you trying to build for 5 years down the road, or do you think with this team that you can mold it a little bit differently and get this team back to being a playoff contender? I lean towards go towards the future. Bank on these young guys, build up more draft capital, build up more prospects, and maybe it leads to your team not being very good for a couple of years. But as a lot of texters have said, this team has done the unthinkable, which is not having to go through a true rebuild in 20 plus years. Eventually, you have to take that step back. And this does feel like a natural reset point for this franchise if Barry Trotz, Barry Trotz is going to step down. But if you make a change at head coach, if you trade away some of your veterans, this is a natural spot for this team to reset and start building up that foundation for maybe 2 or 3 years down the road.
Again, it has to happen. And you hate it for, the Philip Forsbergs of the world, the the Roman Yossi's. You mentioned Ryan O'Reilly could be a trade asset. So you just hate it for those guys. But as much as it pains you to say this, pains me to say this, it seems like it's just going to have to happen. Just going to have to let it run its course.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your reaction if you want to text or call. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, news this morning. Elliot Friedman reporting around 8:30 a.m. that Barry Trotz plans to announce he is stepping down as the general manager of the Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. Press conference is about 20 minutes away. And again, we will air that live here on 1025 The Game with Chase and Big Joe coming up at noon. 615-737-1025. Last call for phones. We'll wrap up the show on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Final segment on this Monday. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Again, top of the hour, press conference with the Predators. Barry Trotz, Bill Haslam, Sean Henry going to be speaking to the media. And the reports are that Barry Trotz will step down as general manager of the Predators. He will remain on the job until his successor is found. All of this, according to the report from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet. And again, if you're looking for coverage throughout the day, no need to change the channel. Chase and Big Joe will air the press conference for you. They'll have full reaction. And then at 3, DVD takes over, and Elliot Friedman will be joining Adam Vingan, Willie Donick, and Derek Mason at 3:20 after breaking the story this morning. So lots to come. I saw a text here, and we can wrap up the show on this, of 7151 asks, who do you want to replace Trotz? And I'm not going to pretend to know front office. I don't even know what the word would be. The front office hierarchy in the NHL. Honestly, in the NFL, it's tough when these general manager jobs open up because you don't really know behind the scenes of who's making what decisions, right? Unless you've seen them be a GM before, you don't really know. So I don't know if you want to go experience. Do you want to get somebody who hasn't done it before but could be an up-and-comer? I think the one thing that I will stick with, at least just my opinion, and after talking with Adam Vingan, I feel pretty good about it, is that I think they should go outside of the Predators family. Get a new perspective in here. You've been going at it the Predators way for so long, and that doesn't mean you completely scrap what you've done. Like, I think the Poyle family and Barry Trotz and everybody who's been involved in making the Predators organization what it is today deserves to be involved in the process 100%. But I think you do need an outsider's perspective at the top to come in and say, all right, from somebody who has not been in the thick of it with you for the past 25 years and who has not seen all of this, here's how I view this organization from the outside and what I think we need to do to get it back to being a championship contender. Again, I can't give you specific names, and I'll be listening to DVD today. Maybe Willie Donick and Adam Vingan have some specific names that they're thinking of, but I do think I want the Predators to go outside of their comfort zone a little bit and go find somebody who can bring fresh eyes to this organization and say, hey, here's where you are right now. You've got these aging veterans. You've got young prospects. My plan to get this team back to being a championship contender is this. And I don't know if you can do that if you're somebody from inside the organization. It's tough to know what's going on when you're inside it, right? You have to get that 30,000-foot view. And that's why I think going outside the organization is the smartest thing that the Predators can do at this point.
Yeah, no, I'm with Adam as well, because you might need a fresh message in the locker room, something that will help get this team over this proverbial hump, relying on your young guys. I believe this team is heading towards a full-blown rebuild, which is okay. It may not be our favorite thing in the world, but it has to happen at some point. But in terms of that texter asking, who do you want to replace Barry Trotz? Texter, you'd be better off asking a brick wall than me. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying is I could not tell you names of people I want. And honestly, I think that's around sports, is that hiring for front office jobs is more about talking to them personally, right? Like with coaches, you can see the results are there, right? Like if you were a coach who's in charge of defense, like Robert Saleh, you can see, oh, his defenses have been good. Maybe he'd be a good head coach. And you can see the emotion on the sideline and say, he looks like a good leader. With front office jobs, it happens behind the scenes. Like you can't look at a draft and say, oh, that lead scout must have been in charge of this. So I don't know. I couldn't give you names, but I do think just an outside perspective is what I would be looking for if I'm the Predators. And we're going to learn a whole lot more about this in the next hour, I would say. I don't know how long this press conference is going to go, but as Adam Vingan said right off the top of the show, Barry Trotz is nothing but candid. He is going to go out there and he is going to tell us exactly why this is happening. And I think we're going to get a decent idea of what the Predators' plan is moving forward. This is stunning. The timing of it being a week before the Olympic break, a month before the trade deadline, no one expected this. So I think the Predators do have a lot of questions to answer in terms of why this is happening now and where they plan to go next. But I don't doubt that they're going to give those answers. I think they understand that. The Predators are pretty forthcoming with this stuff. We'll get some of the coach speak, as we always do in these press conferences. They're not going to answer everything, but I do think we're going to have a much better idea. At this point, all we've been able to do is speculate. A couple more details have come out. Again, Elliot Friedman in his story says that Barry Trotz will announce today he's stepping down as general manager of the Predators. He will remain on the job until a successor is found. Trotz is healthy. This is a retirement. He is not interested in coaching. So that is what we know now. And again, it's going to be an interesting press conference coming up here in about 10 minutes. And I can't wait to hear what they have to say because, again, it is a lot of just not knowing right now. We can speculate. We can talk about some of the things that might make sense about why this is happening. But I mean, we won't know until we hear straight from the horse's mouth, I guess you could say. And Barry Trotz going to speak to the media coming up in just a little bit. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, I'd say we're selling the farm at the deadline. None of these old stars are excited about a total blow up at the end of the career. And that's fair. I think if you make the decision to trade a Ryan O'Reilly, there might be some other guys who want to get out too. Like Jonathan Marchessault could get traded. You got some expiring contracts that you could move on from. This trade deadline just got a whole lot more interesting with the Predators because not only are you in this kind of crossroads where you have these aging players and it's not really working out. You're on the outside looking in, and it leaves you with these tough decisions that you have to make at the trade deadline. You're now doing it at this transition point from Barry Trotz to whoever the next GM is. So going to be a lot that needs to be answered in this press conference and in general over the next month about what the Predators' plans are for the future. Lots of big decisions need to be made.
One thing's for certain, we're about to find out a lot here in about 6 minutes.
Yes, we are. And again, that's been the story of the day. Barry Trotz is stepping down as general manager of the Predators. He will stay on until his successor is picked, but he is going to speak to the media coming up here at noon, and we will bring that to you live here on 102.5 The Game. Tomorrow on the show, we will have Nick Frazier in. We will continue to talk about the big news, anything that comes from this press conference. And we'll talk some Titans too. We didn't get into the Titans at all today. So we will talk a little bit of football tomorrow. But of course, the big news of the day today, Barry Trotz stepping down as Predators general manager. And we are about to hear from Barry Trotz himself, from ownership, from CEO Sean Henry, and plenty of reaction is coming throughout the day here on 102.5 The Game. Again, that does it for us. Been an interesting show to say the least. And coming up next, you'll hear from Barry Trotz as he is making the decision to step down. Again, 3 o'clock DVD. They will have reaction as well after Chasing Big Joe. And Elliot Friedman plans to come on at 3:20. He broke the story, so I'm sure he will have more information as well. That does it for us here on this Monday. We'll be back at it 9 a.m. tomorrow. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next with Barry Trotz having a press conference announcing he's stepping down as general manager of the Predators. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.